A shadow falls over Omaha. The year is 2013. The place, Omaha, Nebraska. A city known for its heartland values suddenly gripped by fear. A string of seemingly random killings, brutal and senseless, shatter the peace. The culprit? A name whispered in fear. Nico Jenkins. He doesn't lurk in the shadows, he embodies them. This is the story of a man consumed by darkness, a chilling tale of madness and murder. This is the gruesome history of Nico Jenkins. A childhood marred by darkness. Born into a family steeped in violence, Nico's path seemed tragically preordained. His parents, deeply entrenched in criminality, exposed him to brutality from a tender age. Guns, drugs, and violence were his sinister companions. Young Nico began to exhibit disturbing tendencies early on, torturing animals, setting fires. The seeds of a monster were sown. His life offered no comfort or guidance. It was a breeding ground for anger and detachment from human life. Juvenile detention centers became his new classrooms, hardening him further.
Nico was always different, you know. Even as a kid, there was this darkness in his eyes.
The descent into madness, first blood, is drawn. At 16, the line between fantasy and reality blurred for Nico. Armed robbery became his entry point into the adult criminal justice system. He terrorized his victims with a chilling lack of remorse. His time behind bars, meant to rehabilitate, only intensified his rage. He embraced the gang culture, finding a perverse sense of belonging amongst fellow predators. The darkness within deepened, fueled by a growing obsession with Egyptian mythology and a self-proclaimed serpent god. His fascination with the occult became intertwined with his violent impulses. He began carving strange symbols onto his skin, a physical manifestation of his descent into madness.
Prison psychiatrists, alarmed by his deteriorating mental state, diagnosed him with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Their warnings, however, went unheeded. The system had failed to recognize the monster brewing behind Nico's cold, calculating eyes.
Unleashing terror, a bloody August in Omaha. July 30th, 2013. Nico Jenkins, after over a decade behind bars, was released. It was a fatal miscalculation. Within days, Omaha's streets ran red with blood. His first victims, Juan Uribe Peña and Jorge Cajiga Ruiz, were lured to their deaths. Their bodies, riddled with bullets, were found in a pickup truck. The city was reeling, but the nightmare continued. Days later, Curtis Bradford, an acquaintance from prison, was next. Lured to a secluded area, Bradford was shot execution style. The killings pointed to a killer devoid of empathy or remorse.
We were dealing with a man who had no regard for human life. The brutality was unlike anything we had seen before.
Our lives were shattered. There are no words to describe the pain of losing a loved one in such a horrific way.
The mask of madness, terror, and ink and blood.
Nico Jenkins didn't just instill fear through his actions. His appearance became a chilling extension of his deranged persona. His face, a canvas of hate, was etched with intricate tattoos, each one seemingly imbued with a sinister significance. The most prominent, a crudely inked serpent slithering from his jawline towards his ear, served as a constant reminder of the darkness that resided within. His eyes, cold and devoid of emotion, held a chilling intensity, reflecting a mind consumed by madness. His shaved head and goatee, often contorted in grotesque expressions, further amplified his terrifying visage. To the people of Omaha, he was a living nightmare, a monstrous apparition sprung to life from their darkest fears. He reveled in the fear he instilled, his appearance a powerful weapon that magnified the terror he inflicted. With each passing day, the body count climbed and the investigation intensified. The police were working tirelessly, but the killer, elusive and seemingly without a motive, remained one step ahead. Then, a chilling development. Local news channels began receiving cryptic messages, rambling and disjointed, claiming responsibility for the murders. The voice, chillingly familiar, belonged to Nico Jenkins. He craved notoriety, seeking to bask in the fear he had unleashed. He claimed to be a vessel for an ancient serpent god, carrying out his will through these brutal sacrifices. His words, a chilling blend of religious fanaticism and schizophrenic delusions, offered a disturbing glimpse into his fractured psyche. The city held its breath, praying for an end to the reign of terror, while authorities desperately sought to capture the man who believed himself to be a god. The final victim in Nico Jenkins's spree was Andrea Kruger, a young mother senselessly gunned down in her car. This final act of barbarity proved to be his undoing. Surveillance footage captured his image, and the net closed in. He was apprehended, putting an end to the month-long reign of terror that had paralyzed Omaha. His trial, a media spectacle, offered a chilling portrait of a mind consumed by darkness. He represented himself, his courtroom antics oscillating between incoherent ramblings about serpent gods and chilling confessions delivered with a disturbing lack of remorse.
Despite his attempts to plead insanity, the jury saw through his charade.
In 2017, Nico Jenkins was found guilty on all counts, his fate sealed. He was sentenced to death, a punishment many felt was long overdue. Echoes of fear, the legacy of Nico Jenkins. The scars left by Nico Jenkins run deep, the families of his victims, forever haunted by the brutal and senseless nature of their loved ones' deaths, struggle to find peace.
The city of Omaha, once a beacon of Midwestern tranquility, now bears the weight of his gruesome legacy. His name, forever etched in the annals of true crime, serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most unassuming places.
The story of Nico Jenkins is not just about the horrific crimes he committed, but also about the systemic failures that allowed them to happen. His troubled childhood, marked by abuse and neglect, coupled with the inadequate mental health care he received while incarcerated, raise uncomfortable questions about societal responsibility and the prevention of such tragedies. His case serves as a grim testament to the devastating consequences of ignoring the warning signs and failing to address the root causes of violence. A system found wanting, the unanswered questions. The trial may be over, but the questions linger. Could Nico Jenkins have been stopped? Was his path to becoming a monster inevitable? Or were there missed opportunities to intervene, to offer him the help he so desperately needed?
His case sparked widespread debate about the effectiveness of the criminal justice system, particularly its handling of individuals with severe mental illness. Many argue that his release, despite clear warning signs, was a catastrophic failure of judgment. Others point to the lack of resources and support for individuals battling mental health issues, both within the prison system and in society at large.
The case of Nico Jenkins exposed the cracks in the system, highlighting the urgent need for reform and a more compassionate approach to dealing with those struggling with mental illness. His story serves as a stark reminder that punishment alone cannot solve complex societal issues. Beyond the bar's life in perpetual confinement. Today, Nico Jenkins sits on death row in the Nebraska State Penitentiary, his future uncertain. He remains a subject of morbid fascination, his story a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. He is a stark reminder of the human capacity for evil, a chilling example of what can happen when darkness takes root in a soul. His crimes, brutal and senseless, continue to haunt the collective memory of Omaha, a city forever marked by his reign of terror. His days are spent in solitary confinement, his interactions limited to prison guards and the occasional visit from his lawyer. He continues to claim innocence, attributing his actions to the will of his serpent god. His ramblings, once splashed across news headlines, have faded into obscurity, drowned out by the echoes of his victims' cries for justice. He is a ghost in the machine, a spectre haunting the corridors of the American justice system. A haunting reminder, the enduring shadow of evil. The story of Nico Jenkins is not easily forgotten. It lingers in our minds, a chilling reminder of the fragility of peace and the potential for darkness. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our society and the fine line between sanity and madness. His legacy is woven from fear, anger, and profound loss. Though difficult to stomach, it must be told for its potential for enlightenment and change.